Hi, I'm Bob Jenkins, and welcome to the Freedom 100 on Racing Nation TV.
All right, race fans, hello and welcome to the Earn Your Freedom 50 tonight here from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The preliminary event is part of the Save the Freedom 100 event here on iRacing. Joining me alongside for the call will be Noel Carmichael and Cole Fralick. We'll be joining here for 20 laps here of the famed Indianapolis Motor Speedway for drivers vying for the final spot in the 60-car grid for tomorrow's Freedom 100. Drivers, I believe, will be heading out onto the track for qualifying here shortly. Get outboard with Vince Lewis, who's taken to the track. Right, outboard with the driver of the 07 as he's getting up to speed for his warm-up lap. Of course, Indianapolis needs no major introduction. The 2.5-mile speedway located in Speedway, Indiana, has played host to racing events of all disciplines. Of course, on the 2.5-mile oval and the infield road course over the course of the years, at once hosting Formula One's United States Grand Prix. Vince works off turn number 2, going to head down the back straightaway here. Just under 200 miles an hour, heading off into turn number 3. Down the front straightaway off turn number 4. This will be the first timed lap for Vince. .47.537. See if he can gain anything on lap number 2. Two minutes remaining in qualifying. If anybody else would like to chime in on what we're going to expect to see tonight with our preliminary event here as drivers vie for that last qualifying spot. Sounds like from the word on the street is we're going to see a lot of 4-wide action throughout this event, given it is very, very hard for cars to break away.
Yeah, that's just kind of the nature of these cars and the test sessions that we've had leading up to this event. It's really hard for it to break away because of the high downforce package that these cars carry. Unlike the IR18 counterpart that is the big brother to this vehicle, these cars really like to stay rubber banded together and kind of form that pack racing scenario that the Freedom 100 had became so well known for in the later part of its history. Much like kind of the NASCAR COT pack racing from what you see at Talladega and Daytona, that's kind of the nature that gets brought here and what really allows these cars to slingshot around each other and stay so tightly wound up.
Yeah, and it's a whole new ball game this year because previous runnings of this race, we've utilized the what is now called the USF 2000 Pro car, but it used to be called the Indy PM18. That is ran all 5 iterations before this. This is the first year we're going to have the actual true Indy Lights car. It's actually made for a challenge because we're going about 30 miles an hour quicker into the turn. So drivers are going to have to navigate the challenges of aero wash as well as just the speed itself.
Yeah, of course, a big part of that is the extra drag that these cars have. You know, we did not receive a proper speedway wing configuration, although many have seemed to attest that nonetheless, it does seem to drive very similar to what we saw in late years of the Freedom 100 as late as 2019 in its final running. So we'll have to see just how far the field opts to kind of stretch themselves away from each other, if that's even going to be an opportunity, as 4 cars will make the start here for the 50, and they're going to have to earn their way into the Freedom 100 tomorrow night.
Yeah, just because we have 4 cars doesn't mean we're probably not going to have as close of a race. We've done a lot of testing with these cars, and even when we've had even 2 or 3 cars, we've seen them battled and jocked for position for what will be the 20 laps here tonight, but they could go for almost 100 if they really wanted to. These cars are about as competitive as we've ever seen here, so there's really no reason for us not to expect that this race is going to be as crazy as tomorrow night's will be.
Yeah, and just to show the parity between the cars, we actually had a tie between the first and second place cars of Jason Van Sickle as well as Matt Skipper. So just to show you how even it's going to be with the amount of drag this car has, that's going to prove it right there.
It's really funny too, because Skipper came into this voice chat and he actually talked with us and said about how much he was struggling with his car, and then he goes up for qualifying and he ties for the pole position but loses it by less than a thousandth of a second.
Well, I believe the age-old saying that Darren Pittman once said is, "I'm burning a lap," and that's exactly what Skip did. But honestly, with the 4 cars, it's still going to put on an amazing show because just throughout testing, this car is just a blast to drive, and it's a blast to watch, even 2 cars racing.
Yeah, we'll run very quickly through our starting grid here tonight. Will be the 26 of Jason Van Sickle on the pole position with Skipper in tow, and then Vince Lewis and Mike Wayne Robinson will round out that 4-car field. We're going to cut away real quickly here, get our promotional sponsors their time to shine, and we'll cut back to the race as we get through the pace laps here at Indianapolis.
Some of us just love going for a drive. Not to get somewhere, but to feel something. The road, the power, the freedom. From the streets to the summit and everywhere in between. Where every RPM, turn of a wheel, and view feels like a victory. That's what drives us to drive you. So you can be confident. When you peak, you win.
Hey, what's up, Caleb?
What's up, Brandon?
You sound defeated. A long day at the office?
Yeah, got stuck at a cat food marketing meeting for like 3 hours. I don't know a thing about cat food, and I don't even work in marketing. And then I got sent on a coffee run like I was some sort of intern. Then at the end of the day, when I want to go get gas, I just realized everything is so darn expensive nowadays, man.
Yeah, you got that right.
Like, do you have any idea how much we're spending on Netflix?
That's like $20 a month.
Do you know how much we're spending on cable?
That's like $50 a month.
But you know what isn't expensive?
Tell me.
Kart Chaser Premium. For only $9.99 a month, you can watch all the American karting action live from coast to coast. Subscribe and become a member today.
All right, and welcome back to the Speedway. We're just about ready to get headed under pacing conditions here. These drivers are all gridded up, ready to go. I believe we're on standby, waiting for the pace car to get a move on, and we'll start wrapping around the Speedway for tonight's event. Well, we were looking for people to watch, but I think with everybody so close together in the field, I think you got to watch just about everybody here tonight, gentlemen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just the way that these cars are. It's going to be almost impossible for anybody to really break away from one another, especially with the lack of cars that we have. What's really going to need to happen is someone's going to make a mistake that causes those back two rows to really fall off and kind of put themselves in that Davey Hamilton Jr. position, what we saw in the 2018 running of the Freedom 100, where he lost the draft. It was kind of stuck in no man's land, one of the most boring laps of his career, even though really it's hard to say that you're having a boring lap around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But yeah, with how tight these cars are, I think these guys are pretty much going to be stuck on top of each other all night long.
Yeah, and I think honestly, this is probably the race you want to be a part of because there's room to run. In previous runnings of the actual Save the Freedom 100, it would get gridlocked, so there really was nothing you could do unless you just made a bonsai move through the grass like somebody in this booth did. I don't know who did that, but yeah, it's just you're gonna have room to run, you're gonna have room to grow. You just got to minimize mistakes, and luckily for these guys, they don't have to pit tonight like tomorrow night.
Hang on, we're not going green, not going green.
And as you can see here, as the field does pull away from the starting grid to begin the warm-up laps, we are going to have 2 pace laps for tonight. We did this in part because we expected a higher field for tonight, but this is the same kind of procedures that we're going to be seeing for tomorrow night. Just kind of an opportunity to let more of the cars that were in the back of the pack have an opportunity to catch their breath and kind of adjust themselves, because what we've had in the past with this race is by the time everybody really gets themselves ready to go, the pace cars are already pulling off the racetrack. So this is kind of a moment to kind of let the drivers familiarize themselves with this car, familiarize themselves with the racetrack, get themselves in the mental headspace, so that way when we do go green, they're able to just go on and rip themselves down into turn number 1. I think another part too that we might see whether or not is going to help is with these cold tires on that opening lap, especially in turn 3 and turn 1, the car wants to snap sideways and brake towards the inside wall. So hopefully with this extra pace lap, we can get some tire temp into these Firestone tires to allow them to actually pull away into turn number 1 and not have to wash out to the outside wall.
Yeah, and that's another thing. You talk about the car's setup. It's a very tricky car to drive, honestly. It doesn't seem like it. It seems like you're flat out at Indianapolis. And for a good chunk of the run, you will be. But that first lap is very sketchy. And pretty much the number 1 rule of tonight is just don't turn right. Because if you turn right too aggressively, the way these cars are trimmed out, it will shoot you into the wall. So you definitely don't want to do that. But you definitely got to mind how the car's balanced through turn 1 on the first lap.
Yeah, it's certainly something we've seen a number of times on the channel here with our coverage of the Indy Next Oval Series. Many drivers get caught out by the cold tires very early in the run, and I have it on good faith from talking with drivers heading into our round 1 coverage at Motegi for the Indy Next Oval Series in the official series, that likewise is similar, that they were saying that you didn't want to turn the car right at all because it very much wants to kind of snap around and put you on the brink of death.
And that's actually kind of reassuring to hear that from some of the pro drivers that run in that series, because we tried figuring out ways with the setup and testing to find ways. Is it just a suspension setting? Is it a aero configuration that's causing it to snap like that? But to hear that is pretty much what we confirmed, is that it's just a car feeling to where, for whatever reason, if you turn the wheel even an inch too far to the right, it's not even so much of a thing where it snaps loose. It's like the back end is already overtaking the front of the car and you're facing backwards down the straightaway. I had that happen in testing where I was running running behind a buddy of mine who'll be racing tomorrow night. And for the first time in his career while running professionally, he said, that's the first time I've ever hit somebody nose to nose and they're not stopped on the track.
Yeah, and it looks like we're rounding turn 3 into turn 4. So it's going to be the curator of the IMS Museum, Jason Van Sickle, leading the field to green here in what is the Jimmy Murphy throwback. Matt Skipper to his outside, and they're going to come off turn 4. The pace car is going to pull off, and I think they're going to bring us to the green here, boys.
Pace car is down. Who's going to earn their freedom here tonight? We're green.
Green flag, green flag.
Van Sickle with a hell of a launch. That's what we're talking about. You really need to kind of time yourself in that right position to give yourself an opportunity to break away. And while not really had worked as he would have liked, you can see he has a pretty healthy margin as Vince Lewis jumps from the back row all the way up to second in the opening few turns.
Yeah, and that's huge for Vince Lewis. But I mean, right now Jason's way too far out there. It's kind of dog eat dog world right now. But these 3 cars behind them, they're going to get a huge run going into turn 3. I don't think they're going to be able to catch him, but coming off turn 4 for sure, somebody's going to get to his outside, most likely.
And as they maneuver themselves off of turn number 4, you're going to see right what Cole was talking about. Jason kind of stuck in that sucker hole position as here comes Matt Skipper jumping to the inside trying to make his name known. Here comes Mike Robinson going to make a 3 wide. This is for second, not even a transfer spot on the opening lap. And Mike Robinson's going to force Skip to have to jump out of line and get up towards the wall to try and keep himself from causing a massive wreck. Mike Robinson not even running in the transfer spot right now, and he's already making the moves like it's the last lap.
Well, it's 20 laps. The aggression mode is turned all the way to 150%. Mike Robinson, that was a very sketchy line going off into turn 1. In testing, it's been pretty tricky if you run that shallow of an inside line into turn 1. You've kind of had to drag the brake a little bit. Here comes Skipper back with a run on Van Sickle, but Mike Robinson's all over him. He's actually almost in the grass trying to pass him.
And as they make their way down the front stretch yet again, here comes Matt Skipper once again peeking to the inside of Jason Van Sickle. They're going to go wheel to wheel across the yard of bricks, and Skipper is going to become the first lead change of tonight's race as here comes Mike Robinson now making a peek underneath Jason Van Sickle as he tries to drop him down to the 3rd spot as Van Sickle finds himself out of the groove as he looks to have to lift a little bit as Mike Robinson already trying to peek the nose under Matt Skipper to try and make a 3 wide, and here they go, 3 wide heading into turn number 3.
3 wide. That's not the most cars you're going to see wide all weekend. I can promise you that. Van Sickle wisely backs out of it. That's a business decision out of the car number 26. Matt Skipper going to try to hold on to the lead, but Robinson's kind of worked that outside a little bit to where you can see that he didn't exactly hang with Skip, but now Van Sickle's got to run up the middle. Looks like he's going to try to tuck in line, get a sniff of the draft, and now he's going to go to the outside of Skip off of turn 1, back in line with Skip.
And how about Vince Lewis back there in the 3rd spot? He's kind of just sitting back watching all this. Of course, he did make the move with Mike Robinson falling back into the 4th spot, but I don't think that was really him wanting to make the pass for position more than it was Mike Robinson getting shoved out of line. But now, as I say that, here comes Lewis now tightly on the back wing of Jason Van Sickle. He's going to hop down behind Matt Skipper now as they're going to go 2 by 2 heading into the north end of the speedway.
2 by 2, 2 rows deep, 4 cars. All battling for 1 spot. Oh, that's tight between Van Sickle and Skip. Van Sickle wisely kind of backed away. But it is so easy to touch wheels in this car. And honestly, the moment you touch wheels, you can get away with it on a straightaway. But if you're in the corner, you're going flying. There's no doubts about that. Skipper leads another lap. But honestly, I'm kind of liking what Vince Lewis is doing. He's just kind of waiting in the wings, waiting to see what he can do. And honestly, from that position, you can learn what kind of run you can build.
And as they make their way back down the back straightaway yet again, as you can see the train now starting to form on the outside line, which is kind of sticking Skipper back in no man's lane with nobody behind him. Well, this is not the PM18 where it's really draft dependent and you would need a pack of cars to really power the outside line. It didn't really seem to make that much of a difference as Van Sickle had that higher entry going into the corner, but as they head off on turn number 4, Van Sickle going to peek the nose underneath the Matt Skipper as now they're going to go single file down the straightaway, and Skipper going to try to enact the snaking line heading down to break that toe, but it's not going to work as Van Sickle going to tuck behind him again entering into turn number 1.
Yeah, Van Sickle, he learned out of Joseph Newgarden's book, it's better to not follow the dragon than to follow it. but that's going to force him out to that outside line again. Mike Robinson trying to figure out a way to go apart from these two. But, yeah, Van Sickle, he's just kind of testing the waters right now. He got a really good run there out of turn 4, and that's kind of what I've seen a few people doing in testing is just building that run off the exit of 4, try to fire it to the inside. Couldn't do it great that time, but this time I think he's going to get it. He's really close to the back continuator of Matt Skipper.
Yeah, he keeps trying to back the car up to get that momentum like you talk about exiting turn number 4, but a lot of things I'm noticing that he's making the mistake of is he has too high of an entry into 3, which forces him to have to back off to keep it out of the wall. And then when he does go to make that move, he pulls the trigger just a little bit too early. And what we saw there, he slammed that turn 4 curb on the exit as Skipper really backs out of it mid-corner, and Van Sickle almost runs into the back of him as they make their way down the backstretch yet again. These two are going after, and you can see they are really struggling with the race car right now, which goes to show once again that strategy that Vince Lewis has. I think he can kind of sense the dangers in the water as you see Van Sickle again trying to make that run up on the top shelf of turn number 3, but it just really doesn't work. And you can see again really high of an entry, and that's going to allow Mike Robinson to steal that toe from Matt Skipper, and that's going to bring them side by side for the runner-up spot as they make their way to complete lap number 7.
Yeah, and I think a thing that Jason's doing wrong, honestly, is he's way too close to Skipper when he's trying these moves. Now, yes, you do get the run. Yes, you can build it. But Jason's too close for this run to truly build. You got to be about a half a car to a car length off of the car ahead of you to truly get that momentum built up to try to get to the inside. As Mike Robinson now going to follow Skipper. Well, he thinks about 3 wide, doesn't have the run for it, but Vince Lewis.
Here he goes.
He's just hanging out back there. He's like, you 3 party it up. I'm going to steal it on the last lap.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for this wreck to happen. These two are getting way too close up there at the front, and Mike Robinson's just behind him, waiting for that mistake to happen. Again, really close to the front wing. Oh, big swerve from Van Sickle. That is not a move you want to make in the first half of this race. That's going to allow not only Mike Robinson to get closer to the rear wing of Van Sickle, but it's going to make Vince Lewis get closer to the front end of this pack, which I don't think is where he wants to be. As you can see, again, just kind of backs off, opens that gap a little bit to give himself some breathing room, and is just kind of really waiting for either Skipper or Van Sickle to make that bad bobble, which is going to send one of these two flying nose first into that catch fence.
Yeah, and it's really Mike Robinson controlling the race right now. It's all about who he goes with. Van Sickle now gets almost an edge on Skipper into turn 3. Doesn't, but Van Sickle way too far out. That's going to cost him about 6 or 7 tenths on the lap time. I mean, obviously lap time doesn't matter here. But Van Sickle back to the outside, and if this is actually going to be the run to the line, I think Van Sickle would have it. But bad news for Jason. There's still going to be 11 laps to go.
Yeah, he got him by a nose there as they crossed the outer bricks, once again entering into turn number 1. Again, the problem that Van Sickle is having is he's either turning it in way too early and having to back out of it to avoid clipping Matt Skipper, or he just has way too high of an entry and just washes out towards the wall. He's really struggling to make that outside line work, which, to be fair, is not an easy thing to do in any sort of race car. It's why that bottom is so dominant, why it becomes a single file race, whether it is Indy 500 or the Breaker 400. Again, Van Sickle turning in a little bit too early, or maybe Skipper turning a little bit too late, but those two, again, coming close to making wheel contact at the entry of the corner. And here we go, Mike Robinson again trying to make a move, but with the fact that these two are so tight together and not really able to break apart, it kind of leaves Mike Robinson stuck in a position where he can't even get the running if he wants to.
And honestly, I think Van Sickle's kind of moving reactionary to what Skipper's doing, because Skipper will twitch on the bottom, and I'm almost seeing the 26 car shoot to the outside. So looks like Jason's going to get another run very tight on the back tire of Matt Skipper there, and he's going to get to the outside, but he's still not going to clear him, I don't think.
As they make their way down the backstretch yet again, we are halfway through this race. This time, Van Sickle has the nose ahead, entering into turn number 3. He looks like he's going to hold a tighter line as he makes his way through the north end of the speedway. Skipper again bobbling down to the bottom. This might be what Van Sickle was looking for as he makes his way off of turn number 4. Skipper's going to have that bottom line, which gives him momentum, but you can see Van Sickle is starting to figure out the line that he needs to take for this race car. And here comes Mike Robinson pulling the trigger. He's going to go 3 wide for the race lead as they make their way back into turn number 1. And there's the contact.
That is a dangerous game to be playing at almost 190 miles an hour going into turn 1 at Indy. I don't want to be side by side, let alone touching wheels with somebody, but everybody made it there for now. And I'm telling you, the car in 4th place, Vince Lewis, he is just salivating at watching these three ahead of him go, because the moment these three wreck, I mean, it's his race to lose, essentially.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things I think Mike Robinson may be doing, obviously this takes a lot of high driver IQ and something that we don't really see outside of real-world drivers, but he's kind of in a position where he can force a mistake through one of those two because of the fact of how close they are. They're going to keep seeing that car getting right in their rear view mirror, and it kind of leaves them in a position where they're not able to really back out of any moves they want to make, which just kind of furthers the chances of a big wreck happening just because of how close these two are. I mean, look at this. Again, really close, making their way through turn number 2 as Van Sickle and Skipper just bobbling, weaving even in the middle of the corner as they try to find any sort of line that works for them. But man, it's just really a matter of time before one of these two puts each other in the wall.
And Vince Lewis back there, he is now starting to kind of mess with the runs. Almost wheel-to-wheel contact between Skipper and Van Sickle again, and they're getting even closer. Oh, they've got every fan on the edge of their seat right now because, I mean, even for a 4-car race, this is just a little preview of what we're going to see tomorrow night when we have 33 guys in this race, let alone the LCQ that's going to happen prior to that.
There's a contact. Van Sickle goes around hard in the wall. Van Sickle in the number 26 car backs it into the turn 1 wall. That was the contact we were waiting for. Again, just a little bit too early of a move from what I saw initially, but it was really just a matter of time before one of these two wrecked. And now the question is going to become, what does the damage on that 69 car look like? Because he himself is going to have a little bit of wing damage, but with this caution, actually, that's right. That's right. It's not automated cautions because of the fact you need 3 cars to really cause a caution. That's really going to keep us under green.
Yeah, I mean, that's unfortunate for Van Sickle, and after I watched it back, it just looked like Van Sickle kind of didn't leave Skip a lane. And I get it's time to be aggressive, but it's one of those unfortunate things where you kind of take yourself out of the race because of that.
And with that, that's going to really put Van Sickle out of contention for the transfer spots. He's going to have to rely on somebody backing out of the race to even give himself an opportunity. But even with that, Mike Robinson and Vince Lewis or Matt Skipper will have the 2 or 3 transfer spots behind the guy who makes it out of tonight's race. So he's kind of stuck in a position where that might be the end of his Freedom 100 as, again, the race continues. I mentioned the damage to Matt Skipper. The question still remains, what is he feeling in the car right now? I think that's what he's going to be doing throughout these next few laps, just trying to feel, is there any damage to the suspension? Is there any damage to the front wing? Am I losing anything in the corner in terms of downforce or being able to steer and turn the apex the way I want to? As Vince Lewis, who has waited in the wings all race long for the mistake to happen, saw his opportunity, and now he is pouncing on a 69 car trying to steal that transfer position.
And he's got all the knowledge in the world. He's been setting it up for the last 16 laps. Different runs, different ways the car reacts. Skipper tries to block to the bottom, Lewis to the outside. Lewis going to be going for the lead here into turn 3.
And Mike Robinson's going to follow right behind him and kind of give him a push as they make their way into 3. Now, the thing that's interesting as well for Vince Lewis, he was a part of pretty much every single test session. Skipper really only showed up to last night's test session. Mike Robinson is another one as well who has a bit of experience with the way the setup works. But the one guy who's going to have the most experience about how to set up the runs, how the setup likes to react, and the way this car wants to make its moves is going to be that 07 car who is, again, peeking up to the outside as we're approaching 3 laps to go here in the 50.
Well, I'll tell you what, right now, Matt Skipper, he's got probably the best person to have on your box coaching him right now. Andrew Brodsky is in a voice call with him. And Brodsky, he's known as the pusher here at the Freedom 100. He's got all the experience. He's been in every test session, so he knows what this car does. He was even here when we set up the car, so he knows exactly how this car handles.
Back into turn number 3 again, and you see Skipper really just holding the bottom, which is the preferred lane that you're going to want to have. There's the bubble, and there goes Vince Lewis. He finally turns him, and this is a caution that we're looking for, is a massive wreck in the north end of the speedway.
Every car has crashed in the Earn Your Freedom 50. Where's Jason Van Sickle right now? Is he on the track?
Yes, he is maneuvering through turn number 4. He is making his way through the accident site, and that is what he is going to need to give himself a shot to get back in this race. As Skipper went hard into the catch fence, so did Vince Lewis, who had the ramp over the top of him, as Mike Robinson is now just kind of crabbing his way down the straightaway as he does not want to have to take a tow to get back to pit lane.
That is probably the most unfortunate set of circumstances to happen when you're racing with 3 cars.
it was really just a matter of time with how close these guys are racing. Well, I mean, heck, we talked about at the top of the race that even with 4 cars, we're still going to have one heck of a show to put on. And I don't think anyone's disappointing as now Mike Robinson with that damaged race car is going to pull up to the back of the iRacing pace cars. Van Sickle now going as fast as he can to try and get his laps back to get himself back in this race.
Yeah, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Noah, I believe we still do the moon car rule of getting your laps back. I'm not sure if we still do that or not with the wave rounds. But honestly, this is a blessing for Jason.
It is. That is what he needed. And one thing that is not working out right now is that number 07 of Vince Lewis, who has lost the left rear wheel of his car and is trying to get his way down the pit lane. I don't think this is working the way he wants to, because he's about to go another lap down as he is just trying to will his way into the pit lane. But he has to tow at this point. This is not going to work out. And this is going to cost him.
Yeah, that's going to cost him big. I mean, I respect the effort, but at some point you just kind of got to give in and give it up. Jack Painter has called that a racing deal. Jack Painter is the admin for this year's Save the Freedom 100 as well as the Earn Your Freedom 50. And honestly, I agree with the call there. It was just kind of one of those racing scenarios where one car goes down, one goes up, and that's just the nature of the beast with this car.
Yeah, it was really just a matter of time. You have so many cars battling for one spot, and you're in the final remaining few laps of this race. It really just took that one small bad maneuver to force that wreck to happen, and sadly it finally did. As we wait for the replay, I'm going to assume what's going to happen is Skipper is just going to have one bad bobble, and Lewis is going to have nowhere to go, and that's what's really going to trigger all of this.
Yeah, and honestly, it was a lot tighter of racing than you probably need with 3 cars there, and you can see the cars heading through turn 3 there. I mean, they're spaced out there, so something happens between the short shoot here where they just get. Oh, it looks like Lewis.
Yeah. No.
Just met in the middle.
If you can go back a little bit further as we look at the SimRap market replay here, Skipper came off of turn number 3, made that little bobble to the inside. And what we talked about at the top of the race, you cannot move this wheel to the right even a little bit. And as you can see, that car is going to snap up the racetrack right into the path of Vince Lewis. And that is going to launch them into each other heading into turn number 4 and leave Skipper nowhere except needing an FAA clearance. He's going to launch this thing into catch fence. And Mike Robinson's going to have a much harder hit as well.
Yeah, I've never seen a car kickflip off the wall like Skips did, because he pretty much nailed that. I mean, if he was a Red Bull stunt pilot, he would have been probably gold star right there. But yeah, it's just one of those unfortunate things. Skipper did make the slight mistake of just barely turning the wheel right there, and once that happened, it was on. Skipper actually rode on top of Vince Lewis there for a good chunk of that wreck. But I mean, it's just a shame to see 3 of the cars go out of the race like that, because I mean, everybody's trying as hard as they can for that one transfer spot. And that was kind of the nature of the beast. Me and you talked about, Noah. Like, that is the risk you run when you have to be in the Earn Your Freedom 50.
Yeah, and something I want to point out as well, you're talking about the realism factor of this. Of course, the wrecks of the Freedom 100 were never really that violent, but in all honesty, that wreck looked kind of familiar to the 2019 Freedom 100 wreck that involved Chris Windom and David Malukas, where those two got into contact, and Chris Windom I think it was Malukas was the one who actually skated along the catch fence in turn number 3. It looked eerily similar to that, as now the pace car making its way down the back straightaway again. As you can see, the lights are off on top of the pace car, signaling 1 to go. We are on lap 20, meaning we are going to use our first overtime attempt of the afternoon. Skipper leading the field with Jason Van Sickle back in second. So once again, these two find each other on the front row, heading back, but with roles reversed, as now Skipper's going to be trying to get the launch on the restart. Mike Robinson back in third, and for whatever reason, Vince Lewis willed his way back to pit road, but that's pretty much going to ruin his opportunity at a chance to transfer here tonight.
Yeah, and tomorrow night you'll actually see the cars back off the pace car a little bit, because the restart zone is actually from the end of that curb all the way down here to the pit wall. But coming to the restart, Matt Skipper is going to be looking to get a really good launch. He gets a decent one, but it's all about how far ahead you get.
And I think with that jump, because of how few laps are left, that might be what he needs to get himself the best opportunity he can to try and make this transfer position. Jason Van Sickle, again, tucked behind in second with Mike Robinson holding back in third. It's going to take these guys about a lap to get really up to speed in order for Van Sickle to have an opportunity at the pass, as Van Sickle now sitting right in the rear wing of Matt Skipper. He's going to make moves to the outside, and they're going to go wheel to wheel heading into turn number 3. Here comes Mike Robinson, going to try and peek to the outside to make it 3 wide as they head to the north end.
And Van Sickle, he's going to remember the last time him and Skipper went side by side into a turn. They're tight through turn 4. Van Sickle going to try to get a run. Here they come to the white flag. Can Jason Van Sickle get the run on Skip? He's putting him all the way down to the pit wall.
Skipper doing exactly what he needs to do. Do not give up that inside line no matter what you do. He's going to peek up back to the outside to try and give himself a better turn in through turn number 1. He's going to hold the lead as they make their way through the South Chute by the museum as they make their way through turn number 2. And oh, Van Sickle touches the rear wheel of Skipper. An incredible save by the 69 car. That's going to upset him though, and that's going to allow Van Sickle to peek behind and try and make that last lap pass to the outside. And here comes Mike Robinson. This is what we're waiting for. They're going to go 3 wide heading into turn number 3.
Robinson on the outside, Van Sickle in the middle, Skipper on the inside. They head to turn 3 and 4. Skipper got the lead, Van Sickle right up on the attenuator as they head for home.
Down the front stretch, who is going to earn their freedom tonight? You got one more chance to do it. There's the contact.
No!
Van Sickle on the wall. Mike Robinson on the wall. Oh my goodness. Who's going to win it?
Vince Lewis coming to the line. Can he do it?
I think Vince Lewis is going to be a lap down. This is really going to depend on who is still on the lead lap. Yes, Lewis is still a lap down. Who can will their way? He is in reverse trying to get himself back as fast as he can. Oh my goodness. Can you call this the end of the Turbo movie? Guy Gagne trying to beat the snail as he makes his way down the straightaway. What are we watching?
This is the most incredible finish I think I've ever seen. Matt Skipper has done it in reverse. He has earned his freedom for the Save the Freedom 100 powered by Peak Antifreeze.
Well, losers never fun, but I think Skipper's got something for Lewis to pick his spirits up. 1 lap short, he crosses the line in reverse, and that is how we decide the last transfer spot for the 100.
And hey, to Vince Lewis's credit, I think it's scoring him as 4th. Let's see. Oh, he was still scored a lap down. Okay, that makes sense. Because I was gonna say he would have actually crossed the line in 2nd had the scoring not ran out there.
This is the thing you need to remember, by the way. I mentioned this under the caution flag that Vince Lewis tried to will his way back to pit road by crabbing it as hard as he could with one rear wheel powering him towards pit road. And I said that was a mistake. And in the end, that's going to cost him a shot at the transfer position, because even though he was the first to cross the line, he's still going to be scored in 4th place 1 lap down.
Yeah, and that's kind of that's the catch-22 of trying to get back to pit lane to take that fast spare rather than the tow. Because with the tow, he could have easily got his laps back, been back in the fight, just like Mike Robinson was. But Matt Skipper, I can't believe that finish.
That is the most, that is the most, I don't even know how to say it, the most us way we could have figured a way to find the final transfer spot for the Save the Freedom 100. You think about the history of this event and the ways that we've had cars hit the scoring pylon, we have cars hit the catch fence, we have cars launch themselves towards the museum, but in the 6-year history of this event, we've never had a car shift in reverse and crab their way back to the yard of bricks to make that checkered flag.
And Skipper had a huge distance to even cover to get back to the line. He had about, if I had to guess here, he had about probably 2 or 3 football field lengths just to get to the line.
Well, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break to kind of wrap up our thoughts and catch our breaths after an incredible 20 laps. And then we're going to grab Matt Skipper, and then we'll look forward to tomorrow night's 6th annual Save the Freedom 100 powered by Peak Performance. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here after a word from our amazing partners this year.
Keep life in drive with America's #1 diesel exhaust fluid. Only Blue Def products are triple filtered and guaranteed pure. So no matter what you set out to do, count on Blue Def and Blue Def Platinum. Guaranteed for what drives you.
And welcome back to tonight's inaugural coverage of the Earn Your Freedom 50 ahead of tomorrow night's 6th annual Save the Freedom 100 powered by Peak Performance. Well, after an honestly incredible 20 laps of racing with only 4 cars, we have found our winner in probably the most unusual circumstances possible, and that is the number 69 of Matt Skipper, who will become the final transfer into the Save the Freedom 100. He is now number 60 entrant for tomorrow night's race. Skipper, you started on the pole. You talked to us about how much you struggled with this race car. Did you think you were going to be the one to really get this job done here tonight?
Well, I admit I thought there was going to be a little bit more competition out there, but overall, even with 4 cars, it was a great race, and I figured out really quick once I jacked up the start there, and I really thought like I was about to create a separation, but I knew with 4 cars, you get 2 together, you can make up a lot of time. So I figured out that the bottom was pretty good quick. And I just started to really use a lot of the bottom throughout, straightaways, corners, and it seemed like it had, so much more power there compared to the top. Van Sickle was all the way on the top of me, and credit to him for, racing me. I know, we got caught up in a racing deal there, and, he's a good racer, and, we had pretty good battle there, for multiple laps. But it was really about keeping the bottom there. So that's really what it took to really stay in the lead for, that long, and just had to keep on going from there.
Talk about that close quarters racing that you encountered with the Van Cycle, because we mentioned it throughout the entire first half of this race. The amount of times you two got close and were given mulligans to not eventually cause that wreck to send you both into the catch fence. Talk about how hard it was to really keep control of this race car while trying to keep momentum to not lose that lead.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard to do the side drafting part of it when you were going through the corners, of course, because I'm trying to give, my opponent as much respect as possible. And that's what I believe is, good. So, I tried to give them as much room as I could, but at the same time, there were a few times where I was squeezed, and, kind of saw it in turn 1 where, we were going into, two huge rocks going in through a little pin needle. It wasn't going to work. So, that deal kind of happens. It just, it's really about, I think I kept my foot to the floor damn near the whole race. I don't really feel like I lifted all that much. And the only times that I really did was just to try and, keep some sort of run or keep some sort of momentum from not breaking if I was, getting loose or whatsoever.
And then as you come to the checkered flag, you have that wreck that sends all 3 of you flying down the straightaway. When did you really realize that you were still in the lead and had a shot to take the win? And what was your mind thinking as you're in reverse trying to power this car across the yard of bricks while Vincent Lewis is trying to get his lap back to get that transfer spot from you?
So first, I don't even remember, how even the wreck started, because it all just kind of blurred into one. But all I remember is that Van Sickle and I were wrecking, and I see Mike flying down pit road, and I look and I don't see anyone else. I'm like, could I actually win this thing? And I see one guy pass, and then I realized it was a lapper. I'm like, wait, I could actually win this thing. So I just threw it into reverse, saw that they had towed, and that was perfect from there on there. Andrew was screaming at me like Michael Clark Duncan when in Ricky Bobby, just go, being the supportive crew chief. So, I'm glad we could get the last CFM Esports car in. It's cool to get Toyota and, the rep the Extreme Outlaw Midgets presented by Toyota here. Got to thank all of CFM Esports because it's good to be back. It's been a long time since I really do a lot of sim racing like this, and it's cool to have an event like the Freedom 100. And I really didn't expect to win this thing, but I'm glad I did.
And now, as you prepare for tomorrow night for the big show, as you look to try and make the 33 car field for the 6th annual Save the Freedom 100, tell us what you learned from tonight. You're going to take you to tomorrow, and what is the game plan going to be for you to try and win this race?
Well, if I've learned anything from where I've been in dirt late model racing, I kind of take the notebook from Dennis Erb Jr. because he's more known as a low rider, and that was really the name of the game tonight, was really holding the bottom. Sure, I'm in a bigger pack, you might have more of a run if you have more cars on the outside, but the bottom is so dominant that it's going to be hard to beat. Even if you have a good bit of momentum, I think it's really going to be about A, track position, and B, just holding your line, man. Just keeping it there. And if we were able to pull it out with a 4-car field, I hope I can make it with a much bigger field.
All right, Skip. Well, congratulations on the incredible win here tonight, and we will see you in the main show tomorrow for the 6th annual Save the Freedom 100, powered by Peak Performance. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, and hey, go Canes, baby.
And that is going to be our interview from our race winner, Mr. Matt Skipper. As we can see down in the booth, we see Mike Robinson down in voice chat at the bottom. If Cole can, let's try and drag him up in here so we can try and get a last bit of word from our runner-up here from tonight. I would say C main finish. Mike Robinson, your second place finisher. Cole, I'll hand it to you. Let's hear what he has to say.
Well, Mike, first off, you gave it a great effort, but just kind of walk us through your thoughts there coming off turn 4 and then watching everything unfold in front of you.
I don't know where to start. I'm heartbroken. I'm gutted. I should have flipped across the line. Hey, promoters, I earned that. No, it was wild. I was biding my time the whole time, and being in the front seat of that and seeing that all take place, it's something else. The finish is wild. I mean, that was probably the closest to most fun racing I've had in a while.
Well, just kind of walk us through what you were feeling with the car, because I mean, obviously you guys had 4 cars on track, so you're not going to get the read you would with, say, 33. But just kind of walk us through the balance on your end.
I mean, it was loose. It was dancing. But then again, I love that car around there. So it being as loose as it was actually quite a blast, because once it bit and it got that grip, it was a rocket ship. Like it had the perfect balance, in my opinion.
Well, Mike, before we let you get out of here, is there anybody you need to thank tonight?
Want to thank Hard AF Seltzer, JVM Graphics, All Star 15 TV, Crosshairs of Mariana, Resurgence Sports Network, Nerds Doing Nerd Things podcast, and Wrestling with Nerds podcast. And if there's anybody out there that I forgot, I'm totally sorry. But yeah, I mean, we had a great car tonight, so we'll see if we can persuade somebody to get a provisional and come in there and see what we can do with 33. So,
all righty. Well, we'll see if you end up earning your freedom in a different way than tonight's race. But thank you for your time, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was fun watching you guys run.
Absolutely, man. It was fun. I'll definitely be back next year. You can guarantee it. I'm coming for it this time.
All righty, 10-4. So that was Mike Robinson, your podium finisher for tonight. And Noah, that was probably the most fun I've ever had during a Freedom weekend.
Yeah, we started this event as kind of a way to help the people who miss out on the 60 car slot. Last year, we had so many entries for this event that we had to turn people away. And we were like, we have enough cars to host a pretty good event, so why not have a fun way to decide the 60th spot on the entry list for tomorrow? And the only solace that Mike Robinson could take from this is the fact that now he will be that first transfer into the show if someone drops out. And there's already talks in the chats that someone may be selling their entry position into the race tomorrow. So who knows? Maybe there's a way for him to get in the race. I know a lot of people in the chat were saying that we need to give him a provisional into the show. Who knows? Maybe things may work out for him anyways. Let's take a look at your finishing results from tonight's running of the Earn Your Freedom 50. Like we talked earlier, the number 69 of Matt Skipper takes the win in incredible fashion on the final lap of the race after dominating majority of it. Mike Robinson, number 60, falls short in second. Probably would have won the race flipping down the front straightaway if the car did not flip into the pit lane and eventually hitting the pagoda. Jason Van Sickle, a heartbreaking loss in third after an incredible run all night long, running up at the front and starting on pole. His race ends short as he was unable to get the car to flip like everybody else, and he stopped just short of the pit attenuator. And then Vince Lewis, probably the most heartbreaking loss of them all, because of the fact that if he had towed that car back to the pit lane, he probably wouldn't have lost that lap, and he probably would have been the person to steal the transfer spot. Instead, he finishes fourth in the last spot, one lap down. Well, as we look ahead to tomorrow night's sixth running of the Save the Freedom 100, this was a good taste of what we get to see, and that was only 4 cars. Cole, we have a 30-plus feature coming up that's really going to showcase what these cars are capable of, huh?
Yeah, we're going to have a 30-plus car feature, and we're going to have a lot of more aggression, because there's a whole field of drivers that are just insanely aggressive. There's going to be wild moves. Heck, you may even see old TK's lawn mowing business reopen with a new owner, so who knows? But it's going to be fun, and we also have the LCQ to go.
And the LCQ usually puts on one of the best races of the years for us. Last year, we had a moment where we had 20 cars crashing down the front straightaway, one of the largest crashes probably in the history of the Speedway. And now we have a new car and a new batch of drivers to try to figure out how to outdo last year's performance. Well, again, tomorrow night, if you do want to watch the 6th annual Save the Freedom 100 powered by Peak Performance, be sure to watch all the action over on Racing Nation TV. That is where the race will be hosted, of course, benefiting a good cause as there is money for Allison's fight with cancer. As a viewer of the channel was Allison Winter was recently diagnosed with ovarian cancer, so we're going to be raising money for a good cause as well. We know we have a lot of partners that are hopping on board as well to help with that. One of them being Peak Performance, who have been great supporters of this event all year long. Of course, it is the winter time. It was almost zero. It was below 0 degrees last night here up in Indianapolis. So, hey, you're going to need some antifreeze to keep your car from stalling as you started in the morning. Go out there, buy some Peak Performance products, and make sure your car has what it takes to get through the day. Of course, when you peak, you win. As well, we want to thank our partners over at Sim Wrap Market, who hopped on recently, do incredible paint jobs. Cole knows a thing or two about them. About 20 of the cars that are in tomorrow's race, including the guy who won tonight, were made with Sim Wrap Market paints. So go over to their website, check them out. They have a pretty good number set that they've used as well. They have some incredible products that you can use. And I guess that's going to wrap it up here tonight from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So on behalf of everybody up here in the booth, Jacob Collins from P1 Broadcasting, of course, as well, P1 Broadcasting, who are gracious enough to let us use their airwaves here tonight. We appreciate all their support in this event. On behalf of myself and Mr. Cole Fralick, thank you all so much for watching. We will see you tomorrow night as we attempt once again for the 6th year in a row to save the Freedom 100.